You know, with the first single, and I was telling you this when we were backstage, I was listening to Black America again last night, and while at the same time reading about yesterday was the funeral of Keith Lamont Scott, the brother who his family says, had a book. Police said he had a gun, and he was shot and killed while waiting for his child. And I'm listening to your song, and I'm looking at it. It's a snippet. It was like a short video, and it began with what I don't usually watch is a police brutality killing. And we've seen it. Brother on the floor, cops over him, someone's recording, and then you hear the gunshots, and he dies, and someone cries. And you began this short snippet video before the song comes on with this video. Why?
Well, yeah, that video was a video of Alton Sterling being killed, and I honestly don't like watching. Of course, I don't like watching these videos, and I really don't watch these videos, but the director and visionary who I was working with chose to use it, and I said, at one point I was like, I don't know if we should use this, but I decided that we should because it really set the tone and reminds us of what has been going on, and we can't forget that these things are happening, and not that we are, but these things are happening over and over, and these are the ones that we see these, but it's been happening for years before, and we didn't see them, and now we are seeing them, and in some situations that it happens that we don't see. So I just, I think it really wanted to set the tone of like what we've experienced as far as the song. And I forgot, as far as what the song is talking about too. And I forgot to mention that Stevie Wonder is like singing at the end of the song, and he's talking about writing the new black story. What are we writing? The new black story. So yeah, that's why we use that visual, and I still don't like looking at those tapes, and I actually don't really.
Yeah, neither do I. I think the Philando Castile, I stumbled upon it because it was on Facebook, but it's hard to watch. It's traumatic, You were talking about Stevie Wonder, and I like that he sings, we are rewriting the Black American story. And then you have a brother who you told me is James Brown, and he says something. He says, quote, "A man can't get himself together until he knows who he is and be proud of what and who he is and where he comes from." At what point in your life would you say that you finally got yourself together and you could confidently say, I know who I am?
Well, I think it was an evolution for me, to be honest, but it started with just me growing up on the south side of Chicago and being around black people and having an incredible mother there who was like, hey, and then like having some contact with my father. I got to know who I was. My mother made sure I was going to church, and then she also, made sure that I had to go, I was going to school, but then I was also around my friends, so I kind of got to learn who I was as a black person in black culture at that time, and that was evolving to me just through hip-hop, learning more about me, because hip-hop brought certain black culture to the forefront, and in ways that I hadn't learned from my mother, in ways I hadn't learned in school either, though I learned some of it. And then, it just became my own journey of just spirituality, seeking out things. And I would say around the time I made the album, like Water for Chocolate, which was in 2000, I was probably like 28 years old. That's when I really started saying, okay, this is who I am, and this is who I am as a black man in this world. So it was a culmination of that, but it was, it took time in building, but it started on the south side of Chicago.
Right. When we look at Chicago, it's unfortunate. I think Chicago is a beautiful city, but sometimes the things that we see in the news is the crime, and it's what's going on, whether it be what's happening in the hood or what's happening with the police departments and the long history of violence against people of color. You'll hear some people say, well, it's black on black crime, and you'll hear others say, well, there's more white on white crime. But there is crime in the hood. What does the hood need to be healed?
Well, first, I want to acknowledge that like a lot of the issues that we deal with in the hood was kind of put upon us. They was pushed upon us from a bigger part of the system. But now that it's there, it's been a part of our lives and our lifestyle in many ways. And we've, you know, because drugs was put in the neighborhood, because there's a lot of guns put in the neighborhood, and it's lack of jobs, that we, like, have started trying to just survive, and that survival becomes like your own people become your rivals, and you start looking at life in a way where you don't value the other person's life. I think you don't value your own and you don't value the other person's life. I think in our neighborhoods, we've gotten to that point, but I think the solutions, some of the solutions are, first of all, just us really just trying to look at each other and recognize the God in each individual that we see. Even when they acting crazy, even when they acting like, man, they coming from a place where you like, man, why this person acting a fool? You still look at them and say, man, that's a part of me. They part of my community, and we don't judge them. Then I also believe that jobs will help. Us getting jobs in our community is going to help solve a lot of the situations.
That's right. Yes.
And providing continuous programs for our youth, because like we teach our young people early, like how powerful they are, and give them a chance to have a voice and give them things that they can see that's like being introduced to new things that they never really maybe had the opportunity to be introduced to. Then they can dream, because one of the things, look, I grew up around dudes I grew up around I used to gangbang and hang out with dudes, but I just made a choice that I wanted to do something different, because I had a dream. Like, I had something that I was dreaming about. So we got to give our kids something to dream about. And like when we talk about some of the jobs and things that we need, is obviously things that we can support our own, like by just looking out and trying to help out and provide jobs for our own and create jobs and creating things. But we also got to hold this government and politicians accountable. So when we look at this election, we got to say, you know, well, even if it's the lesser of two evils, we still got to go out and vote. You still got to, like, at the end of the day, be like.
That's right. Talk about it.
I mean, because if we talk about what's going on in our community right now, and if we look at the candidate of Donald Trump and really think that things will get better if he gets into office, then we really on some BS. We really on some BS right now. So it's our responsibility, like, for each to encourage our young people to vote, to go out and vote. Like, we gotta vote this election for real, and that means, and two, getting educated on what we do on a local and state level, because some of the things the jobs that we looking for and things we want to see change with the police department, that's state and local. And I'm saying that I'm holding myself accountable too. I'm doing my best to learn which judge is supposed to be this, or, you know, who runs the police department, where we can have the right people in there representing us. So our changes in the community is like on so many levels, but it definitely start with us first, and then we hold them politicians accountable.
Coming up in here preaching. Well, you know, you do a lot. You've got your Common Ground Foundation, which does touch the youth. Can you talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, well, the Common Ground Foundation it started because growing up, I grew up around a lot of friends. Some of my friends just didn't have like a mother around or a father. Some of them mothers was on drugs. Some of them was just dealing with situations and I always felt like, man, I want to help them out. So I would help them out as much as I could. And it just gave me a connection to wanting to help people who didn't have. And, you know, when I got the opportunity to do music and be out there as an artist, I was like, man, I'm going to start a foundation. I know there's kids in these neighborhoods that need some help. And that's our foundation, Common Ground Foundation, is focused on the youth. Like, what we do is develop them through mentor programs academically. We develop them like on a creative levels. We take them to these camps that we have where they learn about yoga and cooking with nutritional cooking. They learn about health awareness and just like have these trust walks where they, you know, just build relationships with friends and just have hours where they can just open up and be themselves. And it's been very helpful for our kids, and a lot of our kids just went to college this year. So the Common Ground Foundation we making moves.
Yes, excellent, excellent. Could you ever see yourself in politics one day, running for office? You from Chicago like Barack Obama, second black president. You hear that? You see it? Uh-oh, see?
Nah, I'm not a politician because I just believe I could do a lot of work outside of that. First of all, I love my people, so I'm gonna do the work for my people no matter what. And I think the political structure, I can't play them political games like that. Like I just, and I'm an artist too, so I want to be able to say what I need to say. And I'm not trying to do all that, man. But I commend our great leader, Barack Obama, and people like, Cory Booker and people and like Kim Fox in Chicago as a district attorney, these people that like go out and really in politics really sacrifice and it is an act of service what they're doing. So I commend them, but I just pretend I got to serve through the music and going out and setting up these programs and going into communities. That's my work.
Right, yes. You just worked on, or you have a song, a part of a documentary that's on Netflix right now, Ava DuVernay's documentary about mass incarceration called The 13th. You make some noise if you've seen that. It's necessary, which basically relates what we all know to the prison system being the new age slave system. And you have a song. Talk about your song and talk about your connection to that film and Ava DuVernay and that documentary.
Yeah, well, Ava DuVernay's film is called 13th, and it's based on the 13th Amendment, which says that slavery is abolished unless you commit a crime. So it's saying if you're a criminal, you are rightfully in the United States allowed to be a slave. I never knew that. I didn't even know that was the 13th Amendment existed and said those words. So when I started doing my research, I read this book called The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander, and I was like, it just was like, at the moment I was reading that book, I found out Ava was doing the movie. So I asked Ava, could I write a song for the film, and she eventually was like, yeah, do it. And I wrote a song called A Letter to the Free, which is really dealing with what the movie is talking about. The movie talks and deals with, and it shows you the facts. It's like, you gotta watch this movie because it just shows you can connect all these things that we see going on to how it stemmed from slavery. And then once they no longer could have slavery as legally, then they came up with all those Jim Crow rules and laws. And then once that got ruled away, then they came up with something under the table, which is called mass incarceration. So they would target black people by war on drugs, and then they would go to that whole mandatory minimum, 3 strikes rule. And who was going to jail is over 2 million people in jail now, and the majority of people are black and brown in the United States. And that's been helping to destroy our families. They destroyed our families on the slave blocks by moving us out and saying, hey, all right, this family, we moving you from your wife and your children. Well, they doing that same thing with the prison system. But as I said, when we vote, we got to hold people accountable. If you're going to vote for Hillary, then Hillary got to be held accountable because Bill Clinton was part of the mass incarceration moving forward. He has apologized, and that's cool. I respect that. But it's a lot of lives that are paid for that. And now it's time to change that. So it's like, it's up to us. We can't just wait on them, but we do got to hold them accountable. And the movie 13th is basically dealing with that, and A Letter to the Free is addressing that. So check that movie, 13th.
It's on Netflix. Yes. Sometimes when you're active and you're doing a lot and you're working to make a difference, at times, even if you're doing it with your writing or you're singing or you're actually working the nonprofit sector and you're involved, sometimes you question if you're doing enough. Is what you're doing working, you ask yourself, when some of these injustices still happen? And there's a guilt. I know sometimes I feel it like I'm not doing enough, but I know we can only do what we can. But do you relate to that? Do you ever feel like that sometimes?
Yes, I definitely have felt at times that I could do more. And that's why I put it upon myself to learn about what I can do and then go out there and do it. I mean, it's like you got to feel some type of responsibility and duty if you are like giving anything, which is the breath of life that we have right now. We got a duty to God to go out there and do something good on this earth. So I'm always looking like, man, I could do better. I could do more. And, you know, that's what it is. And when I do see something like our kids doing well, I'm going to celebrate that and respect that. But I ain't going to, like, celebrate too long in the end zone. I'm going to keep it moving and just move forward and be like, all right, it's more things to do, more work to do. And I learned that a lot, honestly, by being a part of the movie Selma. I was like, man, those men and women was working every day, daily, doing work towards our freedom. So I'm like, man, I could always do more.
Yes. Well, we have somebody. That's a beautiful transition. We didn't really plan that. But a brother who does more. He's been doing a lot his entire life. He is a reverend. He is a civil rights activist. He is the president and founder of the National Action Network. Y'all put your hands together for the amazing Reverend Al Sharpton.
How you doing, bro?
I know we don't want to fall. Grab this mic. Yes. Y'all make some noise for this amazing man. Now, you came at the perfect time. You know, he's talking about doing more for the community. And sometimes when you are active in it, feeling at times like maybe you're not doing enough, feeling like a guilt and feeling like I need to do more, I need to do more. Do you ever feel like that? And when you hear him say that, what comes to mind?
I mean, I think that all of us that question whether we're doing enough are the ones that are really committed and are the ones that have a thirst and a calling for this work. One of the reasons that, you know, I know I'm supposed to talk about voting in a minute or two, but I wanted to come out with Common. There are a lot of people in this last wave of struggle from Trayvon, where we were involved, and as many of you know, we started Eric Garner movement here, and Michael Brown's family had me come there to start the rallies and all. A lot of artists are getting involved now because it's vogue and it's a new trend. This brother is the real deal. He's been involved. And he had no idea I was going to say this. I don't even know if he knew I was coming. But I think that there's a difference for me between people that got involved once, you know, we got LeBron to wear the hoodie or somebody else, then it's trendy, who are just picking up followers on Facebook and building their Instagram, and between people that were always in the trenches. I first met Common many years ago. He and I were at a situation together with Reverend Jeremiah Wright. I'm talking way before Trayvon. So he's been in the trenches in Chicago. He's been doing this work a long time. So when he comes out with a new piece of work around the state of where we are as a people and our social involvement, he comes like a Harry Belafonte, who I knew growing up, who was in the struggle. Rather, you know, some of them came out of Hollywood and helped Martin Luther King as a drive-by. Oh, let me go down here and do this, like they're doing a one-night gig and go back to Hollywood. Harry was in the struggle, and his mentor was Paul Robeson. I met James Brown. I was Jesse Jackson's youth director. He took me on because his son, who was my age, got killed, so I became like his son. James was in the struggle and would do music. They told him, don't do Black and Proud. He lost his white audience. So for us, 10 years later, 10 years this December, Christmas Day, James Brown will be dead 10 years. 10 years later, for Common to be sampling him and to continue to struggle, he deserves a lot of praise.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Reverend Sharpton.
It's
Thank
the
you.
real deal. He's not a drive-by activist. He's not a face-by-like activist. He's not an Instagram activist. A lot of these folk that you see is flashing will be flashing something else next year. He'll be with us, and I think we ought to give him his due.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Oh, I love that. You know,
I want free tickets to the next show, but that's all right.
You got that, man. You got that.
Rev, when you say that and you hear, and we've been having an empowering conversation. We talk about music. What do you feel is the best way to combine music? Some people will say, well, you know, an artist, you know, they're not really a role model, but this brother, he steps into that role. So how do you combine music to get the next generation to come up and to lead and know their power?
See, I think that you've got to express what's in you and not play to what demographics are laid out. If you express yourself, those people know authenticity, whether it's old or young. Like in politics this year, the political leader of Young America was a 75-year-old white man from Vermont, Bernie Sanders. So you don't have to play to the age, you play to the truth. Truth will, in many ways, transition age. Harry Belafonte is more relevant now than some little actor that's or artist running around talking about nothing with a beat. I mean, we may like the beat, but he still ain't talking about nothing. So I think that what artists like Common have done is been able to transition to where people my age, my daughter's age, and younger than that can relate to, because it's a transitional truth, because it's him. Your music, your message have to come from the inside out, not from the outside in. We can tell when somebody's trying to trend to us.
Yes. Common, so you know that we call this Circle of Sisters. It's an empowerment event for sisters, for us women of color. If there's one thing that you could say to us that you feel like we all need to hear right now, from a brother to a lady to a woman, or from you to them, what would you say?
Well, I would say that we as black men, I can speak for me and Reverend Sharpton, we appreciate and value you and love you and recognize your strength and recognize the God in you and recognize like how beautiful you are no matter what shape and size and hair texture. We see the beauty in you, and we know all you've done to help not only raise us, but be there to be in our corners, to be there to be our support, and also the things that you've been doing in this world just as independently to lead things and help shape things. So we more than anything salute you and honor you and hold you up high. That's what we do.
It's beautiful. And you know, I'm sitting between two amazing brothers. You know, this is about the state of Black of America, but brothers need empowerment as well. So what can you say to the ladies that maybe you feel like the brothers need to hear a little more often?
Well, I would say that, first of all, make a brother step up. I think that, and I have two daughters. Both of them are here because they wanted to see Common. They didn't think about me. They left me at the loading dock running in here before Common left, so I ain't fooled. But I tell them, don't have relationships or marriages based on pity parties. Oh, he needed, you know, his mama didn't treat him right. Don't be his mama. Make him grow into being your man. Make him be what he's supposed to be. You can't become somebody's replacement mama. If you a queen, make him be a king, or send him back.
Yes. Common.
Well, by the way, Reverend Sharpton, I know if your daughters came here to see me, I appreciate that. But I gotta say, my daughter came in town acting like she was coming to see me, but she really came to see Beyonce at the show tonight. So I know what she really came for back there. So I feel you.
So if you could chime in, you heard his answer about what you feel like, you know, the brothers might need to hear as well from the ladies.
Well, I mean, look, Reverend Sharpton said a lot of great things. I mean, I also think it's great, the same way I feel it's important that a black man say to his woman, like, man, I love you and I care for you and I'm here for you. I think sometimes we need to hear that too, as from women to the men, like, yo, I got you. And I know you all have, like I said, have done that and shown that, but sometimes, you know, man just need to hear sometimes. That's what my character said in Barbershop 3. He was like, man, you need to hear that sometimes. And it was real, though. Like, you need to hear it.
So, speaking of films, you know, we know about the album Black America Again, November 4th, correct? What's next? What else are you working on? We want to support you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, the album. With the album, I've done some films for the album. Like, I have these shorts from different directors. Like Ava DuVernay did a piece. Casey Lemons, who did Eve's Bayou, did a piece. Also, Gina Blythewood, who did Love and Basketball. Malcolm Lee, who did Best Man and Barbershop 3, did a piece to Black America Again. We have this other short film revolving around. It was shot by this brother named Bradford Young, who's like incredible. So I'm doing films based around the music and the project Black America Again, but I'm also, as an actor, I'm in a movie called John Wick 2, which is this action film that I'm excited about.
John Wick, yes. Rev, we're about to wrap up. Did you have a question or some words that you'd like to say?
No, I just want to, and you asked the question I want is how we keep supporting him. And I just want him to know how much a lot of us that's out there on the front line know the difference, that he's the real deal. I think that sometimes, I know with me, a lot of when somebody gives me some credit, it's who they are that tells me how to weigh what it is. And though, you know, I don't spend a lot of time in movies because I'm nervous of being in certain rooms with the lights out. It ain't like the classiest thing for me, but I want him to know that we appreciate him, and I think that we all should support him because he supported us. It has not gone unnoticed. And for somebody that knows Harry Belafonte and grew up with him and knew James Brown, I know the difference between what is real and what's Memorex, and you the real deal.
Thank you, Reverend Sharp. Thank you for them words. I really appreciate that.
Y'all put your hands together for Common and the Reverend Al Sharpton. The state of Black America. You stay here. We've got more coming up.